What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for episode 14 of the weekly handheld gaming news. And while it did start off a little slow this week, we actually ended up here on Friday with quite a few things that we can get into and talk about. We're definitely getting close to that ROG Xbox Ally pre-order stuff. GPD's been busy, and there's a few other things to mention. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so this first one I want to go over is a few articles I've seen here from Video Cards and others about the MSI Claw A8 AI Plus gaining performance after a software update 10 to 30%. And there's actually been some videos out on this as well. But here's the thing about that is this is only kind of partly true. I've been testing and using this device almost daily since January when I got it, and the only real performance boost we've gotten is from an Intel driver a couple of months ago. You may remember that actually did bring up about 20% or so on performance in a lot of games. Not only that, they completely fixed some of the frame time issues we were having at 17 watts and lower TDPs, because at the time we could only pick 8 watt, 17 watt, and 30 watt in our selection, but they all had boost or PLT or PL2, which worked just fine. Now, with this one, what they're referring to is more the update that we got more recently. So what happened was MSI Center got an update that added sliders for the TDP for both PL1 and PL2 that both stopped and maxed out at 30 watts, which isn't correct. Every handheld's PL2 goes higher by 5, 6, 7, whatever watts, so that's the boost that it can go to for a temporary amount of time, and it helps with performance. When you set both to 30, you kind of take that away, and when it needs to kind of grab a little or it needs a little bit of that extra power, you'll lose that, and you'll lose some frame time, some FPS, and some frame time issues and stuff like that. So basically what happened was we've gone back to the performance we were already getting, because MSI Center had an update where those sliders were both 30, and it borked the performance a little bit. And I did talk about this before when that update came out. Then they released a new update for it, where the sliders are now correct, 30 on PL1 and up to 37 on PL2. So as long as you're setting that at 37 or anywhere above 30, you're giving the device the capability to boost when it needs to, bringing back the performance that we already had. So for me, this is kind of true, but kind of not. It's not true when you're talking about from launch. We didn't gain 10 to 30% over what we were getting after that Intel update a few months ago and launch, but we are getting back the performance that we lost when MSI, the Center update messed up those sliders, messed up the TDP and the boost and all of that. So I did want to cover this here. If you're looking at this kind of stuff, don't go jumping on your claw thinking all of a sudden you're getting this big performance boost. But if you were using this just when those sliders were both at 30 and now you've gotten the update where PL2 can go to 37, yes, you're going to notice a difference there. But this isn't all of a sudden some up to 30% boost since the device launched or since those Intel drivers we got a few months ago. Next up is the GPD Win 5, the first handheld with AMD Strix Halo. The system packs a 7-inch screen, 16 Zen 5 cores, Radeon 8060S graphics, and 128 gigabytes of LPDDR5X memory. This is one of those circumstances where they didn't stop to ask if they should, they only asked if they could, and they built this thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it looks awesome, even though I don't really cover a lot of GPD stuff. I've been watching this with the external battery pack, because this doesn't have the internal battery, so you'll use like an 80 watt hour external battery pack here. Helps with the cooling, the size, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of this hybrid device, and of course it's going to be the most powerful quote unquote handheld that is out there. And I find it super interesting, and I did want to kind of mention it here, but also the expected price. They're saying sub $2,000, and looking at what this is, especially with the amount of RAM, the external battery pack, the chip that's here and everything, yeah, $1,500 to $1,999 to $2,000 for a handheld with an external plug-in battery pack. Now, it is very cool, it is very interesting, and it certainly kind of shows you what other kind of possibilities there may be out there. But my goodness, for that price and for what you're looking at here, it's obviously going to be an extremely niche product, but it is something that I think is pretty cool. I did want to talk about it a little bit this week. If they ever sent me one, I would love to get it and just check it out, but I know that's not going to happen, so I'll probably never actually check one out. But if I see some cool test or news or things like that, I think over here they have a bunch of kind of like benchmarks from the games and stuff here that you can go through on this article. Matter of fact, I'll link this Video Cards article if you want to go check out some of these here. But I know there's also going to be some videos popping up on all this stuff too, and the performance is going to be absolutely fantastic. But the price tag and kind of the way this works is a whole nother thing. But anyway, it is pretty cool looking. But again, it's one of those things where I just can't imagine they're going to sell that many of them, and I wonder how much they had to spend on R&D and stuff for something like this. But anyways, GPD Win 5 with this looks pretty awesome. Let me know what you guys think about this. Would you want to pay up to $2,000 for a 7-inch screen handheld like this with a external battery? Even though it is really cool concept, it does have the performance there. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting one. All right, so Gamescom is coming next week, and we already know that the Xbox Ally devices are going to be there for hands-on for gamers to be able to check out, and that we're expected to be able to pre-order these things come the 20th, August 20th next week. So only about 5 days away is supposedly when we're going to be able to do that. And I'll be tracking this through Gamescom and watching out for that announcement and what's going to be going on. But you can go over here to the actual website here from Xbox.com, where they now have the handheld section completely up here for the Ally devices, all the comparisons and stuff like that. And you can also do a whole put in your email and find out, they'll email you. Probably you'll know when pre-orders are live and be able to go pre-order them before you even get the email, though. I usually don't sign up for these, but you certainly can. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there. Keep an eye out for this Gamescom next week, and probably in 5 days from the time of this coming out on the 15th, on the 20th, we'll be able to pre-order these. At least that's what they're saying, with an August or an October, like October 16th release date. So we're getting close on this one. Still can't order the MSI Claw A8 here in the States or a lot of other areas, even though it's been out for over a month now. And we haven't heard about the Legion Go 2 yet, but we might hear about it at Gamescom. We'll see, or sometime soon after. But yeah, as far as the Xbox handheld though with ROG, we're getting very, very close to getting more information about this and being able to check it out. And I think what's mostly exciting about this isn't so much just like the APU, because we know 10 to 30% over Z1 Extreme, but the operating system and what the Xbox full screen experience brings to this, and really testing performance with that on and off and seeing what kind of real difference there is when it comes to the real world gaming. But yeah, I'm very excited to get hands on and check out the Ally X version here of the Xbox ROG handheld. Now, speaking of the Legion Go 2, maybe we'll hear something at Gamescom, maybe we won't. I think that we will, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be getting closer and closer to announcing that, making it available for pre-order, if not in August, maybe October, but I think we're getting close to the Legion Go 2 stuff too. I think all of a sudden we're going to be getting some information on that. But also here, there is a sale on the Legion Go S Z2 Go, the white model. Now, I reviewed this model back in February this year, and I had paid $730. That's what the normal price is for this thing, but it's $230 off right now at $499. So if you were interested in this device, that's about the highest price I could recommend it at. And for that price, it would be a pretty decent handheld, and you could even put SteamOS on it if you wanted to, or whatever the case. Windows was pretty rough on the Z2 Go. They did do some fixing since February, but it's a 4-core 8-thread chip that is older architecture that does suffer a bit on newer games and stuff. But for a more budget handheld or something that's meant to play easier to run games, $499 is just much better for this device, easier to swallow, and I could recommend it at $499. At $730 though, I definitely was not able to recommend that device. I don't see any sales on the other Legion Go devices right now, but that's what they have up for the moment. There wasn't a ton of Switch 2 news this week that I really cared that much about. We've got 4 more games coming here in August. As a matter of fact, I think Madden's already out here on the 14th. We had Gradius Origins, the Drag X Drive game, which I wasn't that interested, that you're using the mice there. And then we have Kirby, the Forgotten Land down here, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which I'll be upgrading to that one there. And then we have Shinobi Art of Vengeance demo trailer right there, and that's August 29th for that one. So yeah, a few more things still to come here in August for the Switch 2, but it wasn't a lot of stuff to get into there. And they are adding a new game to the GameCube library next week. It's Chibi Robo coming over there. Now, there are a lot of GameCube games I'm definitely waiting to come to Switch Online and to be able to check out. This isn't necessarily one of them, but there's just so many good games from the GameCube time and with potential to come over that I'll be watching for. But again, there wasn't a lot of Switch 2 stuff this week. So all right, and as usual, we'll wrap up this week's video with the GeForce Now games that got added onto this week. And I think we're going to see some cool stuff out of GeForce Now soon. They usually have something with Gamescom. We're going to have more games coming, and they are due for some updates and things like that. So we'll definitely be covering anything that happens here with GeForce Now in these videos, and maybe some others as well. But as far as the games that we've got for this week, there were 7 that dropped onto the service yesterday on August 14th. That's Echoes of the End, which is a new release over on Steam for August 12th. The performance for that game's been pretty rough. The devs are working on patches though. Other than that, the reviews have been pretty mixed on that one. I've got about 4 or 5 hours into it myself. We've got Nine Kings, which is a new release over on Xbox's PC Game Pass, which was for August 14th. We also have Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War Definitive Edition, a new release over on Steam for August 14th. Definitely one I want to pick up. It's not super expensive. I played the original back in the day, and now this one has a lot of revamped graphics and stuff like that, so I want to check that out. We also have Super World, which is a new release over on Steam for August 15th. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, makes its way to GeForce Now for both Steam and the Battle.net release. So if you have in either place there, you'll be able to check that out. Guntouchables is released now for Steam on GeForce Now. And then finally, we have Heretic plus Hexen, which was Steam and Xbox's PC Game Pass. Quite a little collection there of some classic PC games I used to play at my buddy's house back in the day, a long time ago when those ones came out there. So yeah, that's the 7 games we've got from GeForce Now this week. And I will say, playing Echoes of the End was definitely a lot better on GeForce Now on my handhelds than it was trying to play it locally. So if you are trying to play that game, or maybe even Mafia or something like that, GeForce Now is definitely a great way to go. Anyways, guys, that'll wrap up the news for this week. The MSI Claw stuff is a little hit or miss there. Again, my opinion is we're just going back to the performance we had because they broke it when they did that 3030 slider update not long ago with MSI. And then, of course, I'm watching for that pre-order to pop up next week for the Xbox devices with ROG, and I'll make some videos on that when that happens. And yeah, we've got the games this week for GeForce Now. So anyways, guys, as always, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.